I was Team Godzilla pretty much through that whole thing, right before the movie came out. Hey, how's it going? I'm Enrique, artist and illustrator. I've worked in the movie industry. I've worked in basically making t-shirts, so the t-shirt industry, and I've done hundreds of like book covers and things of that sort. So what I want to go over today is how to draw Kaiju Skin. So Kaiju is obviously like Godzilla, like King Kong, ginormous creatures, like everybody's favorites. And I want to go over kind of the basic skin of that. And there's three, by the way. There's three basic skin types that I consider. Kong, it doesn't, that's different, that's fur, and that can be another video, but right now I just want to go over the skin. So, three things. And before I go over that, hit the like button if you do like the topic that I'm doing. Basically, when you press like, it'll let me know what else to put on this channel. So right now I'm just doing what I love. I love kaijus, I love stuff like that. I love monsters, love creature design, and I love, just media in general. But right now I'm really on this kaiju kick. So like I said, hit that like right now if you like that, that topic. Three things. One, we're gonna go over the, so what I think of as reptile skin, for example, the scales. Then I wanna go over folds, which makes the creature look more organic. It makes it look more real, and that's kind of what we're after. And I wanna go over how I do that. And then the third one would be maybe osteoderms. It's kind of like large kind of plates that usually on the backs of stuff, like crocodiles and things of that sort. And they look amazing on kaijus. And those three are the three I want to go through, okay? Just to kind of tell you what the video is going to be about. That's pretty much it. So let's just jump right into the drawing and basically the drawing lesson. Also, check down in the description. There's a lot of links there that will help you out. There's playlists that I think that are very popular. Other than that, there's an ebook I'm going to put out. I don't know if it's there. I hope it's there. It's on basic shading. So if you don't know how to shade, there is a basic shading ebook in the description that'll kind of give you a starter and will really give you a foot up on that. So that's pretty much it. Also, the tools that I use are down there as well. Go check that out. So now, let us jump in. All right, so let's kind of jump into it. So you heard one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the scales, like I said, then the wrinkles. So scaling, right? So scaling is essentially, I think of it as kind of this pattern. It's kind of like, think of like squares or polygons or anything of that sort, but they're a little rounded out. Right? So that could be like a square right there, but the edges are rounded out. And they're all stacked next to each other. Sometimes there's a little bit of a space here in between. Right? And the idea is that they're larger in larger kind of sides of, kind of larger planes of the body. So if you were to have like, let's say, like a leg, say this is like a dinosaur leg, right? The scales would be a lot larger on this side, on the large side of the leg here, than they would be in like smaller crevices here. Like for example, when they're bending the knee, there's gonna be a lot more flexion going on with the bent of the knee. Just imagine his leg. So there's gonna be a lot more bending going on in that area. So there's gonna be a lot more smaller scales and crunchiness to it, and because a lot of it is like the crunchiness of the skin, and just kind of remember that. Same thing with the eye, right? When you kind of, well, I'll talk about that in the next one. But that's literally the way I think of scales as far as this goes. And I'll think of, like, for example, when the light source comes down from here, each one of these is going to catch a little bit of shadow at the bottom, almost like each piece is almost an individual shape, right? Which it is, because it's coming out just a little bit. It's 3D, right? Coming a little bit out from the skin. But that's the way I think about this. I'm always thinking about these as individual pieces. And scaling can take a long time. I don't always do it on kind of the kaiju demos I have on this channel. Sometimes I do, depending on how, because the idea is that sometimes when you put this, I'm just teaching you, you know, I'm teaching you the portions where you put them on the figure. You don't have to do this. I do recommend it though in most areas when you draw scales. It's like this. So the reason I do that is because like you can sometimes break the drawing if you draw, like, let's say Godzilla, and let's say you draw the scales throughout Godzilla. Like if you, in a drawing, you should just pick select areas and then do it, right? For indication. You don't want to literally put every single scale on him sometimes, because there's a possibility the drawing will break. In a rendered, right, 3D model, right, like in the movie, you can do that sort of thing, because there's ways to do that for photographic, like when you talk about something that's photo generated like that, let's photorealistic, there you go. But for a drawing, I only pick certain areas and I do it there, and then the rest I kind of just let it, you know, let the viewer kind of fill that in and just put like little indications of stuff. But that'd be the number one, right? Would be, as far as the skin goes, scaling. Number two, I'm gonna go over, and I was actually gonna go over them the other direction, but I'll go over osteoderms. So osteoderms are these plates. So if you look at crocodiles, they have these protective plates on the back. A lot of kaiju have this, and the difference between that is those are more plate-like and they stack onto each other. So think of like a house. Like, you ever seen tiles on a house? That would be the best, I would say, example of what an osteoderm kind of how they work in many ways, and not unlike every animal, of course, it changes, but something like that, right? It's like these osteoderms are stacked on each other, like a little bit, so you have this like ladder shape downward. And that way, you can kind of keep that going. For great studies, look at a crocodile's back. Crocodile, I mean, if you look at a crocodile's back, that looks very similar to parts of Godzilla, because they're clearly taking from a reference from real animals to make a believable design. But that would be easily what I would think of when I think of an osteoderm. It would be tiling of the house, right? And think of like crocodiles and other animals of that sort. Or maybe even think of like a pangolin. Well, it's kind of different. I don't think those are osteoderms, but I don't believe those are osteoderms, but they work in the exact same way. Pangolin, I think, they have very similar, I forgot what they're made of, but they have a layer to these plates that are sticking out of them, and that's a great one too. So just remember the layering on the osteoderms. That's the most important part of it. Let's move on to the last week here. Alright, number three, we're going to go over folding, and that's very similar to what I was saying before. So you want to have your folding organic. So let's just say you have, first things first, think about where folding would happen. In the crick of the arm, in the crick of the back of the leg, in the neck area, anywhere where flexion occurs, where bunching of skin will happen. And that's kind of one of those things you have to kind of think through a little bit. But it's not hard, because you can see it even on yourself. Like when your eye, let's just say this is an eyeball, right? You're gonna have crinkling on the side of the eye. Right? You're probably gonna have more of that if you're obviously when you're an older person and your skin has different elasticity to it. But you think about that stuff with a kaiju as well. So you have this tension point, a single tension point, usually, or a combination, but let's just use a single tension point, and you have folding going on. It's radiating outward from this one point. Okay? It's radiating out from this one point. And your job is to kind of acknowledge that, figure out where that tension, that point of tension is, and make that look more organic. So right here we're pulling out a fold. Maybe they bridge off here. Maybe there's a couple there. You're trying not to make them all the exact same size, because organic material doesn't really do that. Organic material kind of comes off as natural as possible. So it's not going to be even folding. And if it is even folding, don't draw it that way. Like if you look at reference source or something for it, don't draw it that way. You want to draw it as varied as possible. Maybe one fold is broken up here, or the other one is really long, the other one's a little short. And you're always kind of looking for that. Things like under the neck here, right? You draw, again, try to make it a little bit random, but all of that stuff is not that random once you know where the tension is coming from. Once you know where the tension is coming from, it's going to be a lot easier to draw folds everywhere and what they're wrapping around, right? So that's pretty much it. That was a short little, it's mostly tips, but obviously it is a lesson, but mostly tips. That are the three. So let's go over them very quickly. We're going to go over, as far as Kaiju Skin, we have scaling, we have osteoderms, and we have folds. So this is just the skin. I'm not going to go over fur. That's a different video. Like King Kong would be fur, but you can use the stuff with a folding. King Kong has a bunch of folds all over him. Look at regular chimpanzees and gorillas as well. So that is pretty much it. Yeah, so thank you for staying to the end. Almost nobody stays to the end of YouTube videos ever in general, to be honest. That's throughout YouTube. So thank you so much for making it all the way through the lesson. I appreciate it. If you did like this, like I said, hit the like button, because that's very important. It kind of lets me know what to post more of. Also, share the video if you can. Share it anywhere, like Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, any of that stuff. That all helps massively. And also, check out my t-shirt. This is kind of cool. Promised Muppet Land. If you understand this t-shirt, please comment. But I am going to explain. It's a merging of two properties. I'll let you know where I bought that. I'll probably put that in the description as a bonus. Thank you so much. You're amazing. I'll see you. Say hi to me in the comments.